Okay, so I'm going to talk a bit about last year's development of the game Specters of the Sun. It's all unscripted, so I'm just going to look through my posts from Twitter and talk a bit about the process behind it. So, in broad terms, I've been working on the game for 3 years by now, and the first year was about making 4 levels and the boss fights to them, and I also made like the tiles and like the basic graphics. The second year was about improving the art style and making the demo with one level, the graveyard level. And then the third year has been about uploading the Steam page and making 2 extra levels and the boss fights to them, and improving some of the earlier levels. So that's what I'm going to show now. So this is the last post that I uploaded on YouTube in a development log, where I made some tweaks. I made the zombie explosion smaller, added some UI, contextual UI or the players had, added the gamepad and keyboard customization, save states, bug fixes, and controls. So this was in November. This isn't exactly for Specters of the Sun, but at the same time I made a thing for Hollow Knight. It's like the charms in the game. I made cards for them. The reason is because when I replayed the game, I ended up using like mostly the same charms that I always use. And I was thinking like, I actually don't know what every charm does, and I didn't want to like look it up every time I wanted to know what it did. And I wanted to like rearrange them, like have different piles with like different effects, and like easily be able to count like the nodes. So I ended up making these like cards and printing them and like using them when I play the game. I then updated them a bit extra, and that's what you can see here in the GIF, and they can also be downloaded on the page link here. I also made like a blog post about like the different charm effects. Maybe I'll make like a video of that later. So here's the first test of the new like forest level, which is the first level of the game. So the enemies you can see here, the green like square is a frog, and he behaves a bit like the flea man from Castlevania 1. It's a little different. He has like 3 different jump heights. One really high, one like big, and one small. And right now he moves randomly, but I'm going to change it to something that's a bit more predictable, but not like 100% static. The red square is the big red square is like a large fly that spawns like small flies. And the top square is like a beehive or something like that. It's not in the game anymore. I cut it because when I playtest the game, a bunch of players, instead of like jumping up and killing them like at top of screen, they would just stand there and spawn like infinitely with flies, like swamping the screen. So I think the large fly is a bit better because it like moves toward the player, so you want to attack it like a bit more aggressively. And the blue platform, it's a leaf, so when you step on it, it falls, and you can stand on it while it's falling. And the blue section is a stream of water, like in Castlevania 3. If you stand on it, you move like a bit to the left, to the right. I only I have only streams that go like with the screen right now, nothing that goes like against it, so it only speeds you up. It also affects the enemies in the level. And the yellow part is a raft you can stand on that moves like really fast. It's easy to like lose it, but it's fun when you get extra speed from it. I only have one of them in the level right now, but yeah, we'll see in the newer levels. Here's the blog post when I upload it. I'll put a link in the description. Here's the first prototype of the frog boss. Yeah, it's a bit confusing because everything is like green squares, but yeah, you can see the large square is the frog. And he can do like 3 things. First, he jumps, and then the arc is like static all the time, but if he jumps so he ends up touching the upper part of the screen, he will target the player and slam down on him. And when he falls down, he also spawns 2 like tiny frogs like the one from before. They jump in like 2 different directions. And yeah, he also slams down if you hit him, I think it's 4 times. It's a bit inspired by the boss from Castlevania 4, Slogra, like at the end. The only difference is that yeah, you can attack him a few times before he like teleports up and slams down again. And then the last attack is he's shooting like 3 slime balls in like an arc, and they have like different width. It's a bit changed in the current version. In this version, they would like be on the screen for like I think it's 3 seconds and then disappear, and you'd take damage if you collide with them. In the current version, you only take damage when he's shooting them, and when they land, they become bouncing platforms or like bouncing pads. And then when you bounce on them enough times, they disappear. But they stay on the screen, so it can clog up the screen a bit, but in a good way, since you don't take damage from them. And also, if the frog collides with the tiny frogs, the tiny frog turns into these like slime balls, and large frog bounces a bit extra. Yeah, I also changed based on playtest. In this version, he would fall through the jump through platforms. But the current version lands on platforms. But I kind of want to like add, so if you stand on the same spot all the time and like hide under a platform, I want to add so he would like destroy them. But I haven't figured out exactly how to do it in a good way, so we'll see if it ends up in the final game. Okay, so here's the post from Reddit when someone compiled the top 20 free Metroidvania on itch. So this is the description of the jam game I made called Ruined Forest. The game was only like placeholder graphics, but I spent like a bunch of time on the level design, so it's nice to hear that he liked it. I started working on the Metroidvania jam that was like after this, but I didn't finish the game. So maybe I'll finish that game later on. Yeah, here's the like first version of that game, or it's only for the UI. The idea was to make like a game inspired by Castlevania 1, but with Metroidvania elements. There was actually a game like released shortly after, like a month ago or 2, I don't remember exactly. It's called Castlevania Revamped, and I played it. It was really good actually, so I recommend that. I can put it in the descriptions. Okay, so the idea of this UI was that here's like the health, and it's like 2 bars, so you can gain extra. Here's like the energy bar, or like for sub weapons. Here's like collectibles, and like percentage, completion percentage. Here's like one icon for each ability you find, and there would be like a button combination on how to use them. And here's the map. So the game wouldn't be like insanely large, but I think it would be like longer than the NES game at least. So yeah, the idea was that you would have like all the information on screen all the time, and it would be like on the upper part of the screen, similar to Castlevania 1. There would also be like a boss health bar. I think it would replace like the map when you were in the boss room or something like that. Yeah, I had a lot of ideas about the upgrades, but like I said, maybe I will use them in the future. So here's a prototype level of the auto-scrolling section in the tower level. So the idea is that the screen auto-scrolls, but because I don't like auto-scrolls because they feel a bit like sometimes you don't have anything to do, you just wait for it to continue to scroll. So I added that if you go to the right side, the screen moves forward a bit. And the current version also speeds up the scrolling speed, and you gain a bit of like energy. So there's like an incentive to do it, but you don't want to do it too much because it gets too fast. And you have these like giant pendulums. They deal damage if you like touch the bottom part of it, but you can jump and walk on it, and so can like the enemies. So the enemies here there's 3 enemies. There's the yellow cube that shoots small cubes. It's supposed to be like a giant skeleton which throws like bones. I ended up changing it a lot because it felt too like erratic, and the idea was that it's like a clear bone, so it would be like sometimes go like invisible, so you can't attack it, and then it would move like to the left side of the player. But it didn't work that well because he would like collide with the player when he goes back, and he sometimes gets stuck on like the pendulums, and it's hard to like know what to do with it. So the current version moves less back and forward, and instead of going like clear based on a timer, he goes clear when you like attack him once, and he also shifts like gravity, so he goes like up to the ceiling, and then shifts back again when it becomes solid. And the blue cubes are like ghosts with like a resurrection effect, so they turn back after a few seconds. I think it's like 2. And the purple enemy, it's a cut enemy. The idea is that it's supposed to be like a wraith that like have a scythe attack from, and he attacks like from the other side of the screen. But it became like very like random because you couldn't pay like attention when there was a bunch of stuff happening. So I ended up cutting him, but I have some ideas. I added like a different enemy that we'll see later, but I had some ideas to add like a laser skeleton like from the Castlevania games, which is a bit similar, but you would be able to see like the laser before you actually get attacked. Yeah, I have graphics for this as well. We'll see in later posts. Okay, so here's a bit of a intermission. This is like a game jam game I made with some friends back in 2020, and the person that made like the graphics, Thomas, he actually built like an arcade machine for it. So we had the game. We couldn't display it in 2020, and not in 2021 either because of like COVID. But it was displayed in 2022 at a local gaming convention. And I wanted to make like an update before like the next time we displayed it, which would have been in December. But because they changed like the format of the event, it didn't end up getting displayed. So that was a bit of a bummer. But yeah, I made the update so it improved the game a bit. So the theme of the game is basically there's like 3 arcade games that has been like mashed together: Space Invaders, Snake, and Pong. And you get to play like different combinations of the games. So in this update, the main thing is I changed like the UI. So there's like bigger bars, and instead of having like different numbers for different games, there's always like up to 10, and you can see like the score in the middle. So I think that was like a very good improvement without any drawbacks. Here's more updates with like the different color modes, so you can like change stuff, and a bit of like a bunch of changes. Here's another change with like you get like your number on top of the minigame when you win it, so it's like more visual. And here's more changes. I updated it very fast because I was like, oh, this is going to be the last update, so I just post about it, but I continued to update stuff. Okay, so what I added in this is I replaced like one of the worst game. It was like Pong versus Space Invaders. So the Space Invader ship would just be stronger than the Pong one because you could like shoot the Pong. And it was just like Pong, but one of the player could shoot. So I replaced it with this game, which is like one ship. Both player plays the ship, and then there's sometimes aliens spawning in the middle that you can shoot. And it changes like speed depending on if you miss it or if you hit it multiple times. It's also funny because the ball can like bounce on it and stuff. And here's the last update. There's a bunch of like there's a long list if you click on like the update page. Here's also like another intermission inside the intermission. So I looked through like some old game files and found these like renders of like this is for like a first-person Maya shooter. So we made like the level design in Blender, and I just made these like directly from Blender to add like to a game design document. And the game looks like completely different, but yeah, it was just nostalgic to like post them. Yeah, the game was from like 2015. Here's another intermission. I made like an icon that's flashing to like a shoot 'em up. Yeah, that's about it. Here's a short post about like my record time on the demo. It's 1 minute and 13 seconds. I think it's still like the best, but I usually don't try to speedrun it because right now you can like teleport and skip like most of the level, which I enjoy to play it more. So yeah, I'll need to fix that in some way. But I play the demo a lot, so yeah. But I'm interested to hear if someone else have had like a good time. I haven't heard anyone that's like played it like multiple time in that sense. Here's a test image of the fly spawning enemy. This one ended up like a lot bigger, so the one in the game is like half the size, and even that feels a bit too big. I will probably need to like animate it in some way later to like actually spawn the fly like in the animation. Here's a test for the large frog. The frog is also like a lot bigger than the one in the game right now. I think it's like half the size. Here's a test for the like library boss. I had the boss before this. It was like a bunch of like spirits that will spawn from the bottom of the screen, and some of them would have like a weak spot, and you would like attack them. So this is like a new idea. It's like inspired by the death boss fights in Castlevania when you have like a bunch of projectiles moving around. The difference here is that they spawn from the boss and then move like out into like a ring and rotate, and then that ring moves out to like a second ring, and then when it's going to move out to a third ring, then they start to move like the scythes in the death boss fight. But you can destroy the books before they reach that, so yeah, I think it turned out like pretty well. I had a bunch of ideas on how to like it would shoot like lasers or like lightning and like fireballs and stuff that move on the ground, and like I was thinking that each book would have like a different spell that would like charge up. But when I added like the movement of the boss and how it moves around, I think it turned out to be like enough. I don't want the boss fight to be like overly complex, more like a bit like in Castlevania 1 when you spend like 15 to 30 seconds instead of like 5 minutes or something like this. Here's like a super cool variant of Pac-Man that someone made. That's like one-dimensional. I think it's like really clean. Here's a bunch of versions of the like tower graphics. You can see like how they changed up here, but the first version was more like the hallways in Castlevania 1 with windows and like stone tiles and pillars. You can see the red hands on the side here. It's for the auto-scrolling section, which will damage you. I'll need to animate these as well. They're a bit like rough at the moment, but yeah, they will look better in the final game. So here's the version without windows and just a bunch of like pillars. Here's like more pillars in the background and like this kind of vaults. I think I'm going to add some like here as well in the front ground. Here's someone that made like a game when you can like fish with like a grappling hook. It's kind of cool. Here's with the pendulums as well and like the skeleton. So it's kind of like this, what it looks like right now. But I'll update the enemies as well. Here's a post for when I had the game in Steam Next Fest in February. Yeah, it was like a very good event. I gained a lot of wish lists. I kind of regret that I didn't stream anything. I assumed that people would watch like the whole stream, and my demo wasn't that long, so I didn't like want to show the same stuff over and over. But I realized that actually people don't watch the whole stream, so I could probably have like played the demo, and people would have watched that and like. But yeah, I'll do it for like the next game. And yeah, I hope to gain like more wish lists, but the algorithm is like based on how much you had like when you joined the event. So I gained like double of what I had, but yeah, I didn't have that much before, so it didn't end up super much. But I'm trying to look to join more events, and I'm already signed up for like a Pixel event and a Pixel game event and one in like October for like Halloween. So I hope that's going to go good as well. Here's for like a game jam I helped out with. This is like a portal that you shoot and you can walk through like walls. Here's like a spirit you collect that follow you around. Here's like a early animation test or like a game with the walls and like the lights. And here's like how the final mechanic worked. There's also like enemies that chase you, so it's very cool. This wasn't like my idea. I just made like around 50% of the pixel art, but I think the theme is like very cool. It's a bit like in Stranger Things when they open like portals and like walk through the walls, and there's like other monster like follow you around, trying to like escape. Here's some boss fights I saw that someone else is developing. And like a bat enemy with like the circling projectiles. Here's a obelisk. I haven't decided where to put it in the game actually. Maybe in like the catacombs. Yeah, I really liked the graphics in this game. They have like a bunch of projectiles you can like pick up and throw at enemies. I wanted to do something like similar in the beginning of this game, but I ended up like cutting it. But maybe I will add it like in a sequel or something. Updated obelisk. Nothing else to say. Oh, here's the like bone cigarette. I was planning to like use it in like the catacombs, like a gauntlet, but I ended up using it in a boss level instead. It's like the old like Sumerian step pyramids, or like also called cigarettes, and like with bone decorations. Yeah, here's like the image for April 1st, and this is kind of funny. I intended it as like a joke because I was in like a Castlevania Discord and they was like changing the Discord name to Metrovania for April as the April Fool's joke. So people was like talking Metrovania all the day. So I was like, since my game is based on Castlevania, what if I would make like a game based on Metroid instead? So I made like an interpretation of the Mother Brain boss fight with like the brain and these kind of like circles that spawn and shoot towards the player. I also added like lasers because lasers are cool. Nah, it's more because I like that you need to like avoid large areas. So you can't just move a bit to the side to like dodge the projectiles, and then you need to jump on the platforms to like hit the boss. But the funny thing is, I posted it like on other social media platforms and like Discord and stuff, and no one assumed that it was like April's Fool's joke. Everyone was like, oh, it's kind of like the other stuff you've been making for the game, so so I was like, yeah, maybe it isn't that like outlandish. So I ended up including it in the game. It's currently like the final boss form. Maybe I will add like a final later, we'll see. Yeah. Here's I had this idea to have like a chess boss fight. There's like a similar fight in 9 Years of Shadow. I was thinking about doing something like that, but instead like moving it on the chessboard. But I had some problems on like how to like make it interesting. Like I didn't want to like write a chess engine and like have the player like have the AI play like against the player or something like that. So currently it's like cut content, but I have the like chess background in like the tower level as just a background piece. Maybe I'll make like a simple version that make it into the game, but currently it's not like planned to be included. Here's like a cool auto battler that I playtested a bunch. He released it on Steam and mobiles and web platforms. You go and try it if you like auto battlers. It's kind of cool with like items that you equip on your character and like have a bunch of like combos and stuff. Okay, so here's a movement test for the library boss. It moves like in one direction, and then when you hit it, there's like a force that like decrease based on the player's position. Currently, I have like a bug when it can go like outside and like get stuck, so I need to like figure out how to fix that. But other than that, this is like basically what's inside the game. Here's a test image for the forest. Yeah, it's basically like this in the game. The only change is that I don't have the leaf right now, but I want to add them on the branches. And I ended up removing the light in the background, so it's like dark to make it stand out less. I want to make like more variants on the trees because it looks kind of like same-ish. And maybe I'll add like more stuff later. I kind of like how the grass turned out like next to the water. That was inspired by like an Atari Amiga game. I don't remember the name right now, but it's like all silhouette. They have a bunch of like vegetation in front of the like playing area, or like the play in the foreground, and like a bunch of like small bugs and stuff that you can like collect and like do use for spells. I want to add more like ambient like details. I was thinking about like having running water or something like that. Maybe like fireflies or small bugs, stuff like that. Yeah, here's a zoomed in image of like the frog chilling. Here's more like variants. This is like a ruin, tower ruin. So it's like the forest level is like a mix between castle, tower, fortification area that's been like abandoned and like overtaken by the nature. So there's a few sections like this that can act as like platforms and the walls, because the rest is like pretty flat with like the branches, only platforms from the trees. Okay, here's a pretty funny like bug I had. This is the library boss, and it's supposed to rotate slower when the book is like further from the middle, further away from the boss, but I had it like wrong, so it would first of all it rotates faster if it has like the same speed if you just change the diameter or radius, but it would rotate faster and extra fast because of the modification, so it would just lag out when you had like too many books. I actually don't spawn that many books in the game. It's only like 3 layers, so this would never happen. But yeah, it was kind of funny seeing it happen. It was very unexpected. Here's an eye for the brain boss. So basically, it doesn't move this fast inside the game. It's more like gradually opening very slowly, and then when the eye is like completely opened, it shoots like a laser, and then the eye closes. So one thing I added is that if you hit the eye while it's opening, it's going to like close it to some extent. So you can hit it like multiple times to like close it fully, but you can never like kill it. It's going to like open after a while anyway. So in that way you can like offset the timing of the laser, or if you stand like next to it and it's about to shoot, you can like stop that. Yeah, here's a few images from like a playtest. So there was like a few people in like a game design Discord that playtested the game, and they really enjoyed it and pointed out like a lot of like good stuff. And one of them experimented with the assist menu. So he would like play the game on like the slowest possible speed, and max out like infinite energy and dashing, and then just spam dash and like sub weapons to see, and throws to see like how many, if the game would like break or something. But it didn't, and yeah, it turned out to be almost like abstract art pieces or something like that. It also took like a really long time to complete the demo when you moved slower. But yeah, he couldn't die, so yeah. Here's the boss fight inside the game. So I replaced like the mouse stone statue mouths. They shoot like the projectiles towards the player, and the eyes shoot the laser. So I removed like some of them. So it's like each other eye, each other projectile. And the platforms are like connected to the brain and rotates around it, and some of them are like a bit longer. And you need to like stand on the platforms to hit the brain. Yeah, so I tried to do like some test images to like change the background when you use like the time stop ability. So the first one have the enemies in inverted colors, so they are like more white. And I think I added like a blue outline to it. Or yeah, that's what happened when you invert it. And here's the background inverted, but not the enemies and the player. Here's both the enemies and the background inverted, but not the player. I think the enemies like would... you can't see them that well in this one. And the last one is like the default version. So I don't think I'm going to go with any of these, but I would like to add more like visual, something visual to like show that the enemies are like frozen. I'm thinking about maybe giving like a shadow to the enemy that's like inverted. Like a white sprite that moves like a bit slower than the enemy, so it's like effect that moves around it. But yeah, it's somewhere on the to-do list, and it's pretty long right now. Yeah, here's the forest level inside the game. It looks like pretty much like the example videos, images, but the background is darker. This is not from my game, but yeah, he made like a really cool sci-fi cyberpunk Metroidvania, and I really like when you line up all the enemies like this. I want to do something similar for my game as well. Yeah, it's like really cool, like sprite works. Here's a test for the tower level with like broken pillars and where the floor is like uneven. I haven't added this yet, but I want to add like at least the pillars, so it's not like flat all over the level. But I'll probably not go with this part with the floors, because it blocks a bit of the enemy movement, how they move. But adding jump ropes shouldn't be any problem at all. Yeah, here's a new background for the library level. It used to be like black or have like a cloud sky from like the graveyard level. Instead, this is like rows of books, and the middle is like a bunch of pillars. I changed it a bit, the version that's currently in the game. I also added like a wall on the side, so you can clearly see that you can't move there. Here's just a daily pixel art challenge. The theme was space, and I was thinking about these kind of like Escher stairs that move in like different directions. I'm actually thinking about maybe using something similar like this to like tutorial stage for Specters of the Sun, but I haven't decided on that yet. Here, there's a like vertical section in the tower level, and I reused some sprites that I made for like Ink October Challenge Dracula-tober in October. I'll probably make like a separate post for that. So that was nice. I'll probably reuse a few other of the tiles for the tower level. Yeah, here's the brain boss with candles. I also added like these statues, and they're pretty interesting because I realized that the boss room gets like very crowded with like projectiles, and I didn't want to like remove it like completely. So instead for like tuning it a bit, I'll probably tune it a bit more, but I also added these statues, so when you attack them or like throw the sword and destroy them, they like clear all projectiles in the room and stop the platforms from rotating for a few seconds. So you get like a briefing room. They also refill the candles, so if you do it like tactically, you can clean all the candles, destroy the statue to get another round of candles, and also remove the projectiles if you're like in a tight spot. I'm thinking about maybe adding more mechanics like that, like you destroy something to like get some cool effects. Here's the first version of the select mode screen. So the idea is that there will be like a few modes, and instead of making like a bunch of different screen, I decided to make multiple settings on the same screen and have like a description on the side. This is like the first version. It's kind of dark, so I made it lighter in this version. So what's currently planned is the modes, which is the standard mode, the boss mode, endless mode, which is just repeating like the same level, gauntlet mode, which is only like one screen rooms, and race mode, which turns all enemies into statues. And there's a few difficulty options. This one is remained to spawn, So this is like the default one when you respawn on every checkpoint. 8-bit is like in Castlevania when you respawn on a checkpoint, but then if you die 3 times, you respawn on the first checkpoint in that level. Arcade would respawn you on the spot 5 times, and then it would be game over. And then this one would respawn you in the beginning of the level, and this one would be the beginning of the game. And you can pick which stage you will start on. Maybe I'll replace this one to add like some other effects instead. And this row is now these random effects. So yeah, it's called like reshuffle, and you can change like the sub-weapon positions, the order of the levels, and you can change the enemy positions. Yeah, I have a screen of that higher up. There's also like timer and high score. I think I have some more that I'm going to add later as well. Here's a statue. It's in the graveyard in the tutorial section when you learn how to like throw the sword. So if you hit it, you get 1 energy, so you can throw the sword. And if you run out of energy, it's going to like refill, so you can't get stuck. I'll probably place it like before boss fights and some other place as well. Okay, so here's like some updates for the UI. So one of the problem with the old UI is that players wouldn't see like the number of energy you have, or like you can see the number, it's like a 0 now, but it wasn't clear like what the 0 was connected to. So I was like, okay, maybe I should like add a sword or like a candle or something and add like the number to it, so you understand that it's like the sword throws that you can use or something like that. So I made a bunch of versions of that. So the right side is with black numbers, and the white side is just a number. So I tried a few different variants. This is like the default one, and this like with A is with a sword, but it's upside down. B is with the candle, and they have 2 different like sizes on the font. And C is the sword with 3 different font sizes. So I think if I would pick one of these, I'd probably pick the sword, which is like CA2. But I did some more later on. Yeah, these ones. So instead of using like a number, I decided to go with like energy balls or like circles. So I made like a few versions, like how they're sorted. Right now I have the first one, which is like 10 in a row. I think I actually prefer this one with 5, but you can gain so much energy in the current version, so you can gain more than 15. So I need to like limit that a bit, so maybe I'll change to like the 5. The third version stacks 5 in like so it's easy to count them. But you're actually not going to have more than like 10, so it's a bit overkill to do it. Here's the Wraith enemy. So the idea of the enemy is it's very inspired by the armor axe throwing armor in Castlevania 1. So it moves like a bit back and forth and like moves away from the player, and then it stops and aim for a few seconds, or it's more like a half second or 1 second. I think it's shorter in the current version. And then it throws like a double-edged scythe towards the player and then retreats, and the scythe is like a boomerang, so it comes back. It's a little bit different in the current version. The scythe returns like faster, and the enemy shoots them like faster as well. I think it works like kind of well with the flat level and like with the pendulums and like the other enemies. I also have like a hit animation in the current version. Here's another update with the modes menu. I changed like the font to like the in-game fonts. It was kind of messy to fix like the font here. You need to like go through the alphabet and write like the size of each font character to make like the spacing between letters exactly right. Here's the new HP bar inside the game with the dots. Here's the random enemies, or like a test for the random enemies. It's a bit like chaotic right now, because what it does is like it checks like every enemy inside the game and then destroy it and spawn a random new enemy. So it can be like any enemy from any level. And it doesn't care if it's like a flying enemy or like a ground-based enemy or anything. So you can have like these like 3 enemies spawn like in the middle of the screen, or like a spider on the ground that like tries to like go down on the web, and like yeah, it's like really chaotic, but I think it can be adjusted to like work fairly decently. And I'll probably change it so you only get like enemies like from a specific type, or if I randomize like this stage has like 5 different enemies, and the other stage have like same enemies in like the whole stage. I didn't plan to add like randomization because I knew it would be like kind of messy with how I built the levels. But considering how much like gameplay you get out of this, I'll probably add it like as a extra mode. It's not going to be, still going to be like handcrafted levels as like the main mode. But I think it's a nice like variant when you play the level like a few times, like I have done by now. There's like a new enemy for the forest, and it's like a snail. It's like a very, very simple enemy. It just moves like forward slowly, like in a sine pattern. Like first stops and then like move a bit forward and then stops. You can't destroy it, but I think I'm going to add that you can like attack it and then it's going to stop like completely, but it's already moving so slow, so it's a bit like overkill. But yeah, you want to have some reaction when you hit stuff. And you can stand on the shell. You can jump on it, and it doesn't deal any damage or anything. So I added it mostly as like something to have on the ground, because now it's mostly like flat ground. So I think it's interesting to have like an enemy instead of like stones or something like that. Okay, so here's the I made like an image of the different levels, what they look like so far. And this is like the full game, currently the full game. You have like the first section, which is like a tutorial, then the forest, town, graveyard, catacombs, library, and the tower. So I'm going to zoom in a bit. This is a bit like blurry because of like Twitter compression. This is the tutorial. It's not going to look like the graveyard, but I'm going to use the same tutorial basically and add some gauntlets after that. Here's the forest, lots of like trees and water, some ruined stuff. I'm going to change like the enemy positions because I want to mix in like a few enemies from the other levels. And I want to make the levels like a bit longer, just a little bit, like 20% longer. Because right now it's a bit like uneven. Some checkpoints are like very short, whilst other are like a bit longer. So I want it to be like more evenly distributed. And I want it to be like a bit more like each checkpoint needs to have like a specific room without enemies. And I don't want it to be like you can teleport through like the whole game, because you can almost do it right now. So the game needs to be levels need to be a little longer, and you need to gain less energy. Here's the catacombs. It's like very claustrophobic with like stairs that scroll like diagonally. This is going to be a bit longer in the final game. I think I'm going to add like almost a whole section, because if you see this section, it's only like 3 screens. It's going to be more like 6 screens. That's the skeleton boss. And then the tower section, it starts from the bottom. This is also going to be like a lot longer, but not like 6 screens longer, because it takes a bit longer to like go vertically. But it's going to be more like platforming sections and like moving platforms and stuff like that. And then the final level. Yeah, it's a bit like spoiler-ish to show the full game, but I'm going to change this anyway, so it's not like I'm showing like the final game. I think this section is going to be a bit longer. And the auto-scrolling section, because it can go like very fast if you like push the screen a bit. Here's the final boss fight. I haven't shown anything about that one yet. Here's a drawbridge it's like an intro screen in the town section. The plan is to add like a few like custom screens, like first in the beginning of stages and then like on a few checkpoints or other positions inside the level, and then like the boss room, it's going to be unique. I have it in like the graveyard is like what I want the rest of the game to look like the graveyard. It's going to take some time. Here's the last post. I went through and sorted like all the sprites in the game. So this is like all the enemies currently. As you can see, there's a lot of like animations missing. That's what I'm going to add like the coming months, and yeah, redraw some of the sprites, but there's already like a lot of stuff in the game. I just need to like fill in the blanks, so to speak. Yeah, and that's all currently. So the next thing I'm going to do is to like add, I'm going to flesh out the levels a bit, and I'm going to add like difficulty options for like easy and hard, and then I'm going to like playtest the game and improve like enemies and boss fights and add like the rest of the graphics. and sound effects. So yeah, there's a lot of things to do, but yeah, there's a lot of things that have been done already.